Which gets resolved first? Calen Addison signing the qualifying offer or Diamond Sports and Sinclair Media Group resolving their issues? We'll discuss today. Plus, if you could change one rule in the NHL, what would it be? All that and more on today's episode of Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening? Welcome into another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We are glad to have you along. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. If you are one of the everydayers that has joined Locked on Wild Nation, welcome back. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, Alex Micheletti joins us as we discuss Calen Addison not signing his qualifying offer yet. Are we concerned? We'll also try to figure out what the heck is going on with Diamond Sports and Sinclair Media Group because the season's coming up and we have no idea where the games are going to be broadcast. And we'll play commissioner as we try to come up with one rule to change if we had the opportunity. My name is Seth Topol, your daily Minnesota Wild insider. As mentioned, our regular Monday guest, Alex Micheletti, joins us, and we've got a smorgasbord to discuss today. Some uncertainty, Alex, in a bunch of different areas. But we're starting off talking Calen Addison. Hasn't signed the qualifying offer yet. What is going on?
Yeah, it's very scary, very, very interesting because as we've discussed, if he doesn't sign, I mean, who's going to quarterback the power play? That is a major, major issue that needs to be resolved here. We're running out of time before training camp starts, and ideally you would want that so he's ready to go the first day of training camp. So, he doesn't have much leverage. So, now it's just agents, I don't know, just, trying everything they can to get every single dollar from what's left of the open cap space. But, there isn't a whole lot of room, and you don't want to handicap the team from, having to go short. And we don't want to see the dreaded 11-7 if, someone gets hurt.
Yeah. It is interesting because I look at the different scenarios of how things could play out. And one of the possibilities that entered into my head was, well, they're just going to do this when he shows up for camp. He hasn't been in the area, yada, yada, yada. He's been around. He's been in Minnesota. And so it's not like there haven't been opportunities. And I just can't come up with why this hasn't happened yet, unless they're just waiting through most of the offseason to see if there's a need to sign any sort of emergency assurance. Somebody gets injured in a workout or something to where they would absolutely have to bring somebody in. But the list of reasons as to why this hasn't happened yet, it's not a lot of good. And it just leads to your mind kind of wandering to different places as to, is there trouble in paradise? What's happening here? And the qualifying offer, it's $787,000, I believe. And as you alluded to, once he signs it, Wild have about $1 million in salary cap space to play with. I'm trying to figure out a reason as to why this hasn't happened, and I really can't come up with any.
Yeah, he's not going to get top 4 minutes, but that power play is a marquee. That's huge. You can get a lot of points in that role, playing with Boldy and Kaprizov and Zuccarello. I mean, those are easy. You can get your points really easy on that power play just by being out there and having the puck go off your stick, or just setting it, setting up Kaprizov for a 1T. So yeah, it's mind boggling. Why not bet on yourself? Take that 1-year deal. If you have a 30, 40 point season, and then, try to get a long-term deal, but that's a big role for him, and they are handing it to him because they don't want Jared Spurgeon to be on the top power play. I don't see Brock Faber being on there, and so there isn't a whole lot of options. And Alex Goligoski maybe, but can he be durable enough to play 82? I don't know if you want him to be playing 82 just at this point. We saw when he got playing time, there was some mistakes out there that really cost the Wild. So it's an opportunity for him if he can stay out of Dean's doghouse to really, cash in next summer. So I say, sign the deal and just, get ready for training camp.
Yeah. And let's just assume that it gets done at some point to where then he's in on that amount of money, and the Wild do have very limited funds to operate with throughout the course of the season. I'm just going to put this out there. I don't necessarily like it. I mean, I understand trying to be real thrifty throughout the course of the season because the salary cap is counted on a daily basis. I just would temper expectations in terms of seeing a ton of roster activity unless absolutely necessary. I don't think we're going to see this team sign one or two guys to try to fill out the roster. They'll operate shorthanded. If somebody gets injured and they're playing at home and it's maybe a one-game situation, you're probably going to see 11-7. You'll see somebody brought with on the road as injury insurance there. But this is not going to be a team that is going to utilize the full luxury of the roster every day of the season. If you're playing at home, you'll call players up as needed, but you're probably going to be carrying those 12 guys for forwards, and that's pretty much going to be it.
Yeah, and like you talked about too, it's counted every day, and they make those guys that are in Iowa, they make more money at the NHL level compared to the AHL level. So you have to watch that too, which is interesting with contracts. So yeah, it's the entire season. It's going to be just like, get in the training room, play if you have to play, somewhat hurt, so they don't have to do the 11 or 7 or play even shorthanded where you don't even have that luxury of having the 11 on 7. You're playing, short forwards, which is just obviously not ideal at all. So yeah, it's just going to be very, very tight all season unless they make a mid-year move or before that. We've seen in the past, but getting Ryan Reeves before the trade deadline. But it's the cap is still tight. It's not going to go up until next summer. So it's Bill Guerin and they'll be watching that cap space daily, like you said.
Speaking of watching, we may or may not be able to watch the Wild this season because the whole Diamond Sports Sinclair Media thing is just an absolute disaster mess. And so we're going to try to get up to speed on some of the recent goings on, including some very eye-opening quotes from one of the higher ups at Sinclair Media to Commissioner Rob Manfred of Major League Baseball. Trust me, there is an NHL tie-in to that as well. But we'll talk about the latest with where the bleep are we going to watch the Wild play this year. That's coming up after this here on Locked On Wild. Our next partner has a product I use on an everyday basis. And really, it came down to just being a much easier way to get a ton of nutrients and energy to start your day. No more need for multiple bottles of vitamins and supplements that you have to try to organize and get in your system as you're headed out the door going to work. All you need is one scoop of AG1 and you are getting an overflow of nutrients into your system, up to 70 jam-packed vitamins and nutrients in your system all at once. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL Network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL Network. Again, drinkag1.com/NHL Network. Check it out today. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wild, once again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. For the everydayers, we will continue to take a look at player expectations with Locked On Wild Boot Camp. We're moving on to the second line and what we need to see from the likes of Joel Eriksson Ek, Matt Boldy, and Marcus Johansson. So that's coming up here throughout the course of the week. A couple of special guests joining the show as well as the week unfolds. But today, Alex Micheletti joining us, and I'm going to try to make sense of what is going on with Diamond Sports, a.k.a. Bally Sports, regional sports networks. Those are all terms that you've probably heard at some point during the last couple of months because there is a heated legal battle between the parent company, Sinclair Media, and Diamond Sports, which is all of the different regional sports networks, Bally Sports, North, East, Southwest, you name it, they've got it. So Awful Announcing, a website that posts a lot of content on X and has a website to boot. I like how they handle all sorts of different media-related things going on in the sports world because there's a lot of it, and a lot of it is hard to understand. So I'm going to read some excerpts from this article, and we'll try to figure out what exactly is going on, because the latest news is that Sinclair Broadcast Group is being accused of milking $1.5 billion from Diamond Sports in a lawsuit. More details about a lawsuit filed by the Diamond Sports Group last month against the Sinclair Broadcast Group have been reported. When first reported in July, Diamond's lawsuit accuses Sinclair of receiving about $1.5 billion as a result of alleged misconduct. Diamond claimed that value was improperly transferred to Sinclair prior to Diamond's bankruptcy filing in March of 2023. Details of the lawsuit, first reported by Bloomberg last Wednesday, have now emerged. The suit quotes Sinclair Executive Chairman David Smith as wanting to, quote, milk Diamond for over $100 million per year per Next TV. In June, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred recounted a conversation with Smith in his bankruptcy court testimony, saying Smith told him that he would, quote, keep this going long enough until I get my $2 billion out, okay? And then I'm going to start squeezing your clubs to take their rights fees down, okay, in order to make sure that I stay profitable in the RSN business. And if they don't agree to that, I'm going to put the entity into bankruptcy, and then I'm going to selectively reject contracts. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because that is infuriating to hear that sort of thing going on. All we want as fans and as people that cover this team is to be able to just watch them. That's all we want. And you have people that are higher up in this business that are using it as a cash grab. I hope the court that is handling this case just throws the book at Sinclair Media. The NHL point to this is that they are waiting on the court and are prepared to jump in emergency fashion to try to get some action for this because the season starts in October. We've got less than 2 months and we have no idea what's going to go on with this.
It's absolutely bananas because there, as we know in this market, there's limited options. Who would pick it up? Local Fox 9. I don't know. It's it costs a lot to put on a game, and who would pick up the road games because you have to fly production out there. So yeah, hopefully they can come to some resolution. I also think it's funny. I'm sure you're watching Twins games. How are they paying Randy Johnson to do the Bally's commercial? Where are they getting that? That is such an awkward, just random commercial. What?
Funny story. Bally Sports does not have a deal currently with YouTube TV, so I'm not able to
Oh, okay.
Unless I pay for the app
That's a nightmare too.
which is $20 a month. Yes, it's not a lot, but I'm using that as it is to watch the Wild
Right.
during the season. And I'll tell you this, because I believe it was the Arizona Diamondbacks were dropped by Diamond Sports or by Sinclair. So they then became their own entity. Major League Baseball is putting their games, I believe, after that happened, they put them up for free for the rest of that month. Now there's a cost for that too.
you know what's coming. There's always a cost, as we know with with cable going, people starting to go away from cable. Well, now they're just raising streaming prices. So it just it's a never ending cycle. It's it's just like, oh, people thought they were going to save money by getting rid of cable. Well, now every streaming device is just going to continue to go up, because they are saying they can't cover the cost, so they are just going to keep raising that. So it's it's an interesting world right now in the media world for sure.
And I'm okay with games being on other networks like TNT.
Yep.
All for it. I love
Great job they do.
crew. I love the crew, the pregame crew. And so I have no problem there. But you want a quicker way to put your foot through a television is to have the games that are on ESPN, and you go to the app to try to watch them. They say they're blacked out in your location. And so then you have to go back to Bally's to try to find it.
It's the opposite of growing the game. And as we know, hockey can be a niche sport. It's not as big as football or NBA. So, they need to do a better job of getting more and more fans to watch their games. They can't be doing these blackouts, and it's so frustrating. And as we saw with ESPN too, they continue to have audio issues as well. It's like, I wish they were at the same level as TNT for sure.
My favorite moment from last season was one of the ESPN games where they were supposed to go to a commercial break, and instead they played and they showed the Zamboni resurfacing the ice for like 8 minutes. And somebody in the production truck is just having a field day trying to figure out how to get to the actual commercials. But then I suggested that, the Yule log channel on like Netflix or on YouTube where it's just the log burning in the fireplace continuously. I said, man, somebody should do that with a Zamboni, because that is such a relaxing thing to watch. And obviously, in place of commercials, you'll take whatever you can get. But somebody responded to that tweet at the time, now a post with X. Somebody responded to that and they said, oh, they actually do that. So you learn something new every day. But yeah, this is garbage.
It is.
They have to figure something out. And I know NHL's hands are probably tied because it is in the court system. But if I had to put money on it, nothing is going to happen with this season, because it's
too late in the process here. That this they can't just, if it does, a lot of teams are really screwed, because like I said, especially here, I mean, there's limited options of who would take over that coverage.
So I would say, if I were a betting man, which I am, I would say it's going to be on Bally's this year, because it's just too close to the season, and this legal battle is just going to, because now that Sinclair is being sued, they're going to fight for every penny of that.
This is like Bond villain stuff going on right now.
This is going to drag on into the season. So it's going to be Bally's again this year, and maybe then after that we get something else, some other network affiliation comes in, and then you get LaPanta, you get Ryan Carter with a different logo on the polos.
Just keep it going. The show goes on, Leo.
Common misconception too, those guys are not employees of Bally's.
Thank goodness.
They are
Otherwise,
team employees. So those guys go with the team. And so it doesn't matter if it's Bally's, doesn't matter if it's Fox Sports.
you'll see Audra everywhere.
They'll be repping it. So, and props to those guys too. I can not imagine what this is like. And maybe it's easier because they're not Bally's employees.
Right.
But
it's uneasy. I mean,
it's gotta be a little uneasy with that cloud hanging over your head and seeing this play out with all these other different teams.
And they've been here. Anthony Elpanta's been doing this a long, long time. Audra's been here a long time now. And Gorg KG is the best. My fellow Maverick, Ryan Carter, has been doing a great job in the media game now, horns up. So it's scary. It's uneasy. So hopefully there can be some resolution very soon. Yeah,
we'll figure it out. Somebody will, because jeepers, just an atrocity. Like, figure your S out. Come on. That's enough. Otherwise I'm going to just continue to get more and more angry. So we're going to go
another car analogy.
Yeah, no, we don't need that. We already raised the temperature a little bit tonight as it is. So we're going to finish on a fun note by making some rule changes to the NHL. And Alex, you tipped yours on X earlier today, and I am happy to announce that mine is different. So we've got 2 rule changes to discuss as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Seth Topal joined by Alex Micheletti. Alex, we are commissioners for the day, taking over for Gary Bettman. It's been a long run, but there's some new leadership in town, and we get the opportunity. I think this was a Bleacher Report tweet, was it not?
Yep.
A post by Bleacher Report saying, if you could change one rule for your favorite sport, what would it be? And so we're going to keep this in the NHL realms. I know we both have 2 different ones, and so I'll let you go first, and then I'll give mine, and then we'll discuss.
Yeah, as you said, I put it on X earlier. I said, have 3-on-3 overtime, 10-minute, and no shootout. Just get rid of the shootout. I'm so tired of it determining, a lot of points in the standings, and so I think it'd be a lot more exciting to have just have it go 10, if need be, have that 10 minutes. And it just, the 3-on-3 is so exciting. I just love it. I'm so glad that they do that now, but the shootouts, it's just way too gimmicky, and there's the points there's so much at stake for each single game, and so I just like the 3-on-3. I think it brings a lot more intensity, and you get to see the skill level. I mean, how much fun is it to watch Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl out there? It's just, electric. Same thing, if you ever have, Boldy and Kaprizov out there, it's just so much fun.
I am going with the point system, because we need to, I think, do away with pity points. Teams getting a point because you got to overtime. Give me all or nothing. It's no different than in, say, football, where, well, up until ties became a thing, it's no different than in you win or you lose. And
yeah, I hate the cop out too. It's like, oh, we're on a back-to-back and we get a point. Just, you see it in overtime too, or some teams just, they don't even try to, or the last couple of, or like a minute left in the third period, they're they're just trying to get that point. They're not even trying to get the win in regulation. It's crazy.
Dallas had what, 14 overtime losses?
Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous. And with their goaltender too, Ottinger, like how is that happening?
Yeah, we need to go back to and I know some of the everydayers are fist pumping right now because I've seen this discussed on previous episodes. And so yeah, like let's just look at it here. Yeah, Dallas had 14 overtime losses. And so there's 14 points right there.
Right.
As a participation trophy.
It's a huge deal.
Congratulations, you got past regulation. Like,
especially, no. I mean, as we know, it's the top 3 in the Central is going to be an absolute dogfight this season. Yeah. So many teams got better. Heck, even Arizona and Chicago got better, and Chicago lucked their way into Connor Bedard. So, yeah, it's of course, right? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It is funny too that you go the shootout route, considering that the Wild have been the shootout kings for the last 3 seasons.
Sorry, Freddie. Sorry, Freddie. That probably helped get your fat contract, but it just I just don't like it. I love the 3-on-3 so much. It showcases the game in such an awesome way and an awesome light, and it lets these guys that have just amazing skill, just do incredible things, with that open amount of space.
Yeah, and it gave some incredible moments last year. Matt Boldy in the game against the Devils, where he, with time winding down, just
the buzzer beater.
He's absolutely
Goski. I mean, those are moments that we'll never forget.
Yeah, I like that idea. There are plenty of others, such as honorable mention, and this is one that we probably should talk about, is the playoff seeding right now is just, it's awful. Like, go back to 1 through 8.
What was wrong with that? Everybody loved that. It makes no sense.
No, it would have been, I think, 2 years ago, the Wild would have played the Kings in the first round, and the Kings were the weirdest team in history. They had just that historically inept goal scoring season. They were really good defensively and goaltending, but they had I think it was 50 something goals below what they were expected to score, which is hellish nightmare. And I think this past season the Wild would have played I can't remember. I want to say maybe Winnipeg.
Wasn't it Vegas? I don't know. I thought
it's somebody. But point being is that you don't have to play the 2 seed in the Central Division right off the bat. You go play the 6, or you play, if you're the 5, you play the 4. Something like that, as opposed to what we have gotten. And you have a Wild team 2 years ago that 53 wins, 113 points, and you go slog around in the mud with the St. Louis Blues.
Right. It's hell. It's going to be just a dogfight with how they have it set up here. And Colorado, after how their season ended, they're going to be out for blood. And you got Nashville. I mean, it's going to be a different season than what they've had to deal with in the past. They're going to have to claw and grind for each single point. And like you said, the cap is going to be watched daily, because if anybody gets hurt, Chris O'Hearn's going to be busy. So
it's going to be tight, but we'll keep an eye on all of it as we move throughout the course of the season. That is going to wrap it up for today's episode. Again, thank you for tuning in each and every day of the week. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you go subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms. Leave us a 5-star review if you would be so kind. It certainly helps us out. And make sure to tell your friends on YouTube so we can get to 2,000
so close
by the time the season starts. We're getting there. But beyond that, make sure that you stay tuned as we guide you through the rest of the offseason with new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.